Hey, SMFC, it is Wednesday Devo time. We're wrapping up our series called Love and Hate. It's been a really great time to have this series on the past couple of Wednesday nights. You know, with everything that's going on in our country, in our world, and even just in our personal lives, this is a really great conversation to be having about how do we let love be the predominant mode of operating for us as Christians. And today we're talking about how that can affect the assumptions that we make about people. And the bottom line of where we're trying to get to is that we want to let love fill in the blank with people around us and people that we encounter instead of making assumptions about people. I've made some pretty bad assumptions about people in my life. I have, and it mostly centers around people that I know and that I'm in relationship with. My wife and my family will tell you that one of the biggest things about interacting with me in a relationship is tone of voice. When I hear somebody have a good tone of voice and they're coming to me and talking to me, they could be saying some of the harshest things in the world to me, but if they're saying it in a good tone of voice, I'll probably receive it very well. But if somebody is even saying a good thing in kind of a harsh tone of voice, it's hard for me to receive. And I tend to make assumptions about people based on their tone of voice and how they approach conversations with me. And that is not always an accurate thing. I make that assumption about that person that their tone of voice is the most true thing about them. It's the truest indicator of who they are. And it's just not true. It's not the most true thing about them. Even if like somebody has an accusatory tone with me and I make the assumption that that person is an accusing person, that may be true, but it's not the most true thing about them. What is the most true is that they are a creation loved by God just as much as I am. They were created equal in the image of God, and that is the most true thing about them. Now, can you imagine what our world would be like if we all operated that way? If instead of making assumptions about people or events or things that have happened, we ask the question, what is the most true thing about that person? And that answer being, well, they're created in the image of God, so therefore they have inherent value and worth. If the whole world operated that way, there would be a lot of things that get resolved that we want to see resolved, that people are actively fighting to have resolved right now. So if we start from that place and don't make assumptions about people that are faulty, even if there is a hint of truth behind them, if we start from the place of the most true thing about every individual is that they are loved by God and they are created in his image and therefore have inherent value and worth, that's a game changer for our world. That's a game changer for us as Christians, even in our own community. If we start from that place and make that assumption first, assume that they are created in the image of God and that they have inherent value and worth, that's going to change how we view everything else that they do. It's going to paint things in a much better light. It's going to give us the ability to show grace and mercy in situations where we typically wouldn't. And Jesus even models this for us in John chapter 8, verses 3 through 11. I'm going to read this for you real quick. It's on my screen above me, so you'll see me looking off into space here for a minute. But I want to read this for you guys because it's really, really good. So John chapter 8, verses 3 through 11. This is in the New Living Translation. He says, as he was speaking, the teachers of the religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. Teacher, they said to Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says that we should stone her. What do you say we should do? So they were trying to trap him into saying something that they could use against him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. Now, I really like how Ronnie tends to describe this act. And, you know, there's always a question of, well, what was Jesus writing in the sand? What was he doing in that moment? And Ronnie says that he likes to imagine Jesus was kind of doodling in the sand the sins of each person that was holding a stone. And he'd write a little bit and point an arrow out to that person. He'd write a little bit and then point another arrow out to that person. We don't actually know what he was writing, but it's a very interesting act that he takes to stoop down, write in the sand, and not even come close to addressing what they're wanting him to address. So they kept demanding an answer from him. So he stood up again and he said, all right, But let the one of you who has never sinned throw the first stone. And then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust some more. Like, he just stands up, drops this bomb, and says, whichever one of you hasn't ever sinned before, hasn't ever committed any kind of sin before, yeah, you go ahead and throw the first stone. That's your right. And when the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?" "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." So the one person that hadn't sinned, the one person who was capable of throwing the first stone, gave grace and mercy and forgave what had happened with that woman. So I think what this is telling us, where I feel like the Lord is leading me in this conversation, where he may be leading you, is that we need to start approaching situations with people from the basis of love, that our assumptions are not always correct about people and how they behave. Yes, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. That happened. That was true. But that wasn't the most true thing about her. And Jesus understood that. The most true thing about her was that she was created in the image of God, and she had inherent value and worth because of that. And she was worthy and capable of being saved through the grace of Jesus. So if we have that same assumption about other people, if we approach every situation that we come into contact with where we may have negative feelings towards another person, or a negative response towards an action another person took towards us, if we can ask Jesus to show us how to revert back to what is the most true thing about this person, even though I'm frustrated, even though I'm hurt, even though I wish they would have handled this differently, what is the most true thing about that person? And I guarantee you that Jesus will show you that the most true thing about that person is that they are created in his image, that they have inherent value and worth because of that they were saved just like you were saved. Their sin is no worse than yours, and yours is no worse than theirs. You are all children of God. So if we start from that place, we have equal footing to have conversations that we need to have with people. If there is something that you need to talk to somebody about, they've hurt you in a very particular way that you need to speak up about, you need to address. If you start from the place that that person has inherent value and worth because they're created in the image of God, that conversation is going to go much differently than if you make the assumption that they're just a terrible person and you need to put them in their place. That's the way I think we need to be living as Christians. That's the way we need to be going to Jesus and asking him to show us how to operate with each other in that. So that's my encouragement for you guys today. I hope you guys are having a really great week. We miss you a ton. So ready to be back with you. But until then, just know that Christ is the center for your hope. Whatever you're hoping in right now, whether it's things coming to fruition or hoping that something won't happen, whether it's your expectations that you have, like, those are all not great places to have your hope. Your hope is found in Christ. And he is the one that can help you navigate all of these different things that we're dealing with. And in particularly what we're talking about tonight with making assumptions about people and letting love be the thing that fills in the blank for them and other people. Love you guys so much. Can't wait to see you guys again. Hope you're having a great rest of your day.